Well, welcome everyone. It is lovely to see you all, even if it is on the screen. I'll begin to lead you, but we are going to be led today by the members of our worship team, which I've spotlighted for you. The divine mystery, which is our lover, the power of the beloved which rises in every act of love, and the breath of love which breathes in, with, through, and beyond the cosmos is with you all, for you are the incarnation of love. Thanks be to all that is holy. Thank you for zooming into worship on a day when we focus upon our mortality. Ash Wednesday is when pastors all over the world remind their members of their mortality. Now, when we planned this worship service, we were focused on the excitement of coming out of pandemic protocols. We were about to spring forth into Lent and spring forth into the world again. None of us had any idea that war was about to break out. Now, it's difficult to escape thoughts of mortality when our screens are filled with images of people fleeing for their lives. It feels very much like déjà vu all over again. We live in the world, and life in the world is always precarious. The truth is that we are dust, and to dust we shall return. But we also live in a reality which reaches far beyond our world. So you have zoomed into this worship, and the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is to zoom out, way out, as we shift our focus to the cosmos, to remember that we are stardust, and to stardust we shall return. We'll come back down to earth for our chat. Now, I invited you to prepare your sanctuary and to bring a candle. So now's the time to light your candles. As for dust, I happen to have some ashes from some years ago when we burnt up some Palm Sunday branches. And the good thing is that they last for a very long time. And to remind us of the stardust, I have some glitter. So we'll have a little bit of a cosmic event which is happening in here. Ashes and glitter to remind us that we are stardust, and to stardust we shall return. So I'm going to set that aside until we get to the imposition of ashes, and you're welcome to use water. Sharon is using her eyeshadow, which I thought was a brilliant idea. Some black eyeshadow, that's great. Or simply use your finger when the time comes. Now, I'm going to invite you to pray with me. We open ourselves to the one who is beyond the beyond and beyond that also. Our ancestors spoke of our Creator breathing into the dust the breath of life and giving birth to creatures which our Creator nourishes, nurtures, and loves. Innately, we know that from dust we came and to dust we shall return. Even as we are confident that the breath of our Creator lives eternally in us, through us, and beyond us. So let us breathe deeply of this life, so that all the wonders, terrors, joys, sorrows, loves, fears, hopes, and dreams of this miraculous gift of life might bring us to intimacy with the one who is, beyond the beyond and beyond that also, our lover, beloved, and love itself. Amen.
Today, we remember that everything, everyone, everything we love, everyone we love, and everything and everyone we have yet to learn to love was present from the very first flaring forth of the cosmos.
Unfortunately, Andrew, you're muted.
Today, we give thanks for all the elements which came forth as a result of generations of exploding stars. Our solar system and everything in it developed from a shimmering cloud of stardust elements like calcium, carbon, and hydrogen, resulting from supernova explosion.
Today, we rejoice that we too are made of stardust, blessed with life, so that we might enjoy the gift of mortality.
Dust of the cosmos, dust of the earth, brought to life by the breath of the one who even now allures us forth into the wonder of creation.
Life, glorious life. Blessings upon blessings, full, rich in wonder, filled with opportunities, molded by challenges, tempered by sorrows, increased by love.
Life to be shared with our fellow creatures. Life to be experienced each and every moment, enhanced by the reality of our mortality.
Let us remember that we are blessed to be stuff of the cosmos, ever evolving stardust, blessed by the sure and certain knowledge that the one in whom the cosmos is continues to allure us into the ever evolving love which is divinity.
Reading from The Star Within, a creation story by Dr. Paula Lehman and Reverend Sarah Griffith. In the beginning, the energy of silence rested over an infinite horizon of pure nothingness. The silence lasted for billions of years, stretching across eons that the human mind cannot even remotely comprehend. Out of silence arose the first ripples of sound, vibrations of pure energy that ruptured the tranquil stillness as a single point of raw potential, bearing all matter, all dimension, all energy, and all time, exploding like a massive fireball. It was the greatest explosion of all time. An eruption of infinite energy danced into being. It had a wild and joyful freedom about it. And like a dance, it was richly endowed with coherence, elegance, and creativity. The universe continued to expand and cool until the first atoms came into being. The force of gravity joined the cosmic dance. Atoms clustered into primordial galaxies. Giant clouds of hydrogen and helium gases gathered into condensed masses, giving birth to stars.
Generations of stars were born and died, born and died. And then our own star system, the solar system, was formed from a huge cloud of interstellar dust, enriched by the gifts of all those ancestral stars. Planet Earth condensed out of a cloud that was rich in a diversity of elements. Each atom of carbon, oxygen, silicon, calcium, and sodium had been given during the explosive death of ancient stars. These elements, this stuff of stars, included all the chemical elements necessary for the evolution of carbon-based life. With the appearance of the first bacteria, the cosmic dance reached a more complex level of integration. Molecules clustered together to form living cells. Later came the algae, and then the fish began to inhabit the waters. Thence the journey of life on land and in the sky. Insects, amphibians, birds, reptiles, and mammals all flourished and diversified and elaborated the themes of life. And now it is our time too.
This is our story, the story of our beginning, our cosmology. And so we commence our Lenten journey this Ash Wednesday with open hearts in the midst of our Creator. May we be empowered to perform simple acts of concern, embodying love, and real works of reform and renewal. Let us love deeply the earth which gives us air to breathe, water to drink, and food to sustain us. May we remember that life is begotten from stardust, radiant in light and heat. We are all one with all of creation, with all that now live, with all that have ever lived. Remember, we are stardust, and to stardust we return. Remember that we are part of the great mystery. Remember, we are stardust, and to stardust we return.
A reading from Psalm 92. It is good to give thanks to the ageless God, to sing praises to your name most high, to declare your faithful love in the morning and your trustworthiness by night, upon the 10 strings and the harp, upon the murmurings of the lyre. For you have made me glad, wellspring of life, for your work. At the works of your hands, I sing for joy. How great are your works, womb of creation. Your designs are so very profound. A righteous woman or man flourishes like a palm tree and growls like a cedar in Lebanon. They are planted in the house of she who is holy. In the courts of our God they flourish, still producing fruit in their elder years, fat with sap and evergreen. They declare that the mighty God is upright. She is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in her.
The good news for this Ash Wednesday comes to us from the book of Deuteronomy. Our ancestors heard the voice of Moses speak on behalf of Yahweh. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today. I set before you life or death, blessing or curse. Choose life then, so that you and your descendants may live by loving Yahweh, your God, by obeying God's voice, and by clinging to Yahweh. This is the gospel of our God. There you all are. So these are strange times. The pandemic is subsiding. COVID protocols are about to come to an end, and we're blessed with vaccines and antiviral medications. So we're beginning to emerge from the protocols which have kept us isolated for a long time, but it's also brought many of us together. We'll be returning to our building soon, March 20th, which is like 2 weeks away. And soon the mask mandates will begin to end. Spring is just around the corner, and we are about to spring forth into life in all its glorious splendor. And yet, we know that for millions of people, the joys of spring pale in comparison to the horrors of war. So our question today, on a day when we are reminded of our own mortality, what does it mean to choose life in times like ours? All right, which brave soul here is going to go first? What does it mean to choose life in times like ours?
Okay, I'll take a shot.
Go for it, Steve.
Choose life is choosing the unity that we live in and concern for all, and relooking. I mean, looking at what normal should be in the face of our kind of darkness, um, and working towards that.
Yeah, that word normal keeps coming up.
Mm.
In quotes.
Yeah, what does that look like? I mean, for some of us, choosing life isn't our normal mode of operation. In
Pastor Dawn,
yeah.
it's Cheryl, and what struck me, one of the first things that you said this morning was that people have lived in precarious times, and I feel in a very precarious time now. However, I think that a lot of my life before now has been quite unprecarious, and I've been very fortunate for that. And but I look back at the ancestors and realize the precariousness of their lives. So it brings, and for me this morning was just to face it and say, it's really bad right now. Face right up.
Yeah. Shanti.
Yeah, I choose life because I see hope. I feel hope and God's love surrounding me.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that at some point in the course of all this, there's a delicate balance between bearing witness to what's happened, which feels like the least we can do for the people who are suffering, but also choosing life might mean turning it off for a while so that we can see the hope that is there, so that we can see beyond the horrors of war. Anyone struggling with bearing witness to what's happening? Jane.
I think for me right now, yeah, there's despair, but the hope for reaction of the people of Poland is what I try to focus on. And that is love and warmth and caring and all the things we would hope for these poor people.
And so in some ways, bearing witness is the least we can do. What can we actually do beyond that, beyond bearing witness? Steve?
I would say justice for anyone is justice for everyone, in that I can't do a lot directly about Ukraine, but I can work for justice right where I'm at, and and hope that spreads.
Yeah. That's it. It occurs to me that that is actually choosing life, right? To foster life by creating justice where we are. Denise.
I think that we could bring in our conversations with our family or our friends the topic of nonviolence, and not just as a topic, but in a real deep sense of why we have chosen that path, and maybe even the hidden ways in which we are nonviolent. We are violent when we don't realize it. So every time someone is dehumanized, my goodness, that's real violence. And even if it's like in something that's supposed to be funny, it's not funny. And I shouldn't propagate that, as is so easy to do with social media, just because somebody gets a laugh out of it, someone being called a pig or whatever, it's a way for us to stop some of the beginnings of violent behavior by not accusing anyone, but by sharing, as someone just said, the hope for peace, for reconciliation. And someone else said this morning, our inner strength. There's tremendous power that God has gifted us to heal broken relationships. And I think that's why we're here, because we know we want to be part of that.
Thank you for that, Denise. You remind me of my own violent tendencies. I shared some of those on Sunday when I talked about how even in myself, I can feel the urge to violence. I mean, on Sunday, I talked about, surely there's some secret force who can go in and take care of Putin, and that's a real genuine thought that pops into my head. And that violence, what do I do with it? And yesterday it was those shots of the I don't know however long the convoy is of Russian soldiers heading towards Kyiv, and the violence. It's like, well, somebody ought to be able to stop them. And fortunately, there was a shot afterwards of Ukrainian people blocking the road into a nuclear power plant. And so it's that rising violence in us, and then how do we tap into more imaginative ways to resist, which becomes, I mean, if we give in to the violence, I think then we won't be disturbed by the reality that our own country, Canada, which doesn't often happen, is sending lethal aid to the Ukraine. And what do we do about that as Canadians? How do we respond to that? Anyone want to take a stab at that? Our American friends, you are sending a lot more lethal aid than we are, but the result is more violence in which we are enmeshed.
That's very much like the death penalty in
Mhm.
the US, where we, the citizens, are responsible for that violence.
Mhm.
That is a big burden to carry.
Yeah.
I-
Mary Ellen, I
I-
saw your hand up. And
Yeah,
then Michael.
I think what I call the shadow work, what you were mentioning, John, about recognizing within yourself your own capacity for violence, which I think we all have. And I know I want to take individual responsibility for looking at the hatred or anger, although I think it's righteous anger, but I don't want to add to the pool of darkness that's there. And by my own accountability, I hope to hold myself responsible. So I know hypocrisy is something that is so deeply offensive to me. So I better make darn sure I'm being in my integrity. And I feel like if we could do that on an individual level, then perhaps maybe on a collective level, the United States, my country that I'm in, could begin to look at their own shadow of how they went in and started wars and what they've done to increase the violence. So I feel like the shadow work is critically important. And then just to answer, if I can go back to the original question of choosing life, I feel like I'm choosing life by continuing to see beauty and moments of kindness and love and inspiration. That's how I'm continuing to choose life. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Michael, I saw your hand up there.
Well, I'm an advocate of nonviolence, absolutely in every way that you can. But I cannot be a pacifist in the face of such utter disregard for life, for justice, for all of those things. And it is a contradiction in many ways for many people I know, that you don't want to do things. You know that they will create harm. But what is the alternative in today's world? I mean, we can't live just in a world as we would like it. We have to live in the world that we are in, where we exist. And that part of the world, there isn't any question in my mind that Russia is trying to reestablish the Soviet Union. It has Belarus on its side. It's now going after Ukraine and Ukraine. There was a statement made quite a while ago by a historian. I know it said Russia is a great country. With Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine is a greater country because Ukraine has lots of things that Russia doesn't have. And the question is, if we just stand by and pray and stand by and express our nonviolence, Moldavia falls next, then comes Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They're all in danger. And the question that I think you have to have is at what point do you say, you just can't, I just believe you can't give the world over to the world of violence. I in my own country, I know the biggest regret I think I have for me and for my country was attacking Iraq when it was without provocation. That to me took all the high ground away from America, because I don't think we have ever just attacked without any cause whatsoever. But I'm torn between what to do, and right now I'm just not against providing assistance. I just can't.
Thank you for that, Michael. I think you express something that we all struggle with. This, I mean, in our own tradition, we have Bonhoeffer, who made a decision to move from active resistance to violence to violence as a solution. And I think that within the history of the Christian tradition, you can find a lot of just war scenarios. And I think that that's the struggle that we have internally, each one of us. And I think that we can't be Pollyanna about this. And I think our goal always has to be nonviolence. And I think that that's the trouble with violence, is that it creates more violence, and often it will create violence in us. And so are there creative ways that we can try to prevent an escalation in violence? I'm not sure. I mean, certainly the economic stuff, it doesn't appear to be working yet. Have we given it enough time? I think about those young Russian soldiers and what they're being asked to do. I think it's interesting that when they've been confronted by Ukrainian people in the streets with no weapons, they haven't advanced. And so, how long will that last? I don't know. But I think we're all struggling with this measured violence in order to stop the perpetrators of violence. And how far do we go? All of those things. But I think the goal must be surely to evolve into a world where violence isn't our go-to anymore. And I think we're beginning to see this. And will it happen in our lifetime? I don't know, but it certainly won't happen if we enter lightly into violence, even if it is to protect the weak. We have to, this is an internal struggle, but it's also an actual in the world struggle. And I think that's part of the difficulty in bearing witness to this, because it does challenge those of us who have a commitment to nonviolence. It is a real challenge. Steve.
Yes, I think we have not evolved enough to really answer the question properly, because there's so much, we're so fear-based, and we hold too tightly to what we have, and we worry about our own our possessions and our status and whatever. And so until we can let go and be truly more loving, it's really hard to make a pivot. And so you see this, and so we have to, the church can help us get a little, let go a little bit more. And there's violence around us all the time. I mean, economic violence is rampant in our country. Basically, the 1% perpetuating violence on the 99%, especially the poorest. And so and that's because of greed and fear and things like that that then carry on to world politics. And so we have to start at home, and again, justice early on. And justice means looking at the common good and being willing to accept that, and not and be less self-centered.
Mhm. Yeah, I would echo that. I would also say that part of equipping ourselves to engage in this struggle, to move away from violence, is to do the very things that some of you have been talking about. Where is the hope? Where do you see the hope? Well, clearly I see hope in people walking out into the streets to try and reach some part of the humanity of the soldiers that are coming toward them. I see hope in that, great hope. I hear interesting, creative ways of responding. The Western world is short of workers right now. We're an aging Western world. We need immigration in order to survive. So there's a terrific argument for lobbying our governments to bring refugees in, not just Ukrainian refugees, but refugees, economic refugees who are suffering the violence of economics. And also, what about those Russian soldiers? I heard a wonderful American journalist, and I think I said this last night, that suggested that we offer every Russian soldier who defects a job, a place to live. Spain needs 400,000 workers in order to maintain its hospitality industry this summer. Imagine 400,000 workers. You need that. That's Spain. France is somewhere under 300,000 they need in the next 3 months. Other European countries are in the same position. There is going to be movement. There's going to be migration. How do we reach the Russian people? I don't think the Russian people are in this war. I think it's a system in which they are trapped. So how do we reach them? It's this struggle, and I think engaging in this struggle is important. Not to be Pollyannish and suggest that there's a happy clappy kind of solution to this. There isn't. This is going to be a struggle. Evolution is painful. We didn't come from stardust without pain. There has been pain involved in all of this. So I think that one of the things we can do is support one another as we struggle in our response to bear witness and to provide hope, and also some real tangible aid, and to work for justice here in our own space. Thank you for this conversation. I'm going to lead us into a place of prayer. It's not always easy to create a space for prayer on this particular platform, but we're going to give it a try. Our worship team will begin the prayers, and then I will invite those of you who are here to add, if you would like, to our prayers. So let us create a space for prayer so that we might open ourselves to the one in whom we live and move and have our being, trusting that the mystery which is divinity will continue to live and move and have being in, with, through, and beyond us, empowering us to be love in the world.
ever-present energy of life and love. Breathe into this world an overwhelming desire for peace, so that all of creation overflows with abundant life.
As Lent begins in these lengthening days, I grow impatient for the sight of color, daffodils, tulips, hellebores. Holy breath of joy, emotions play tug of war against each other as we feel the insistent pulse of spring under the weighty snowbanks, and we cry as our sisters and brothers in the Ukraine are weighted down under the relentless dark pulses of war. Breath of life, may we learn how to comfort each other, offering spring life, providing sanctuary to each other as we wait for release.
O source of all love, all life, of all. You love, and we're called to love. And it's hard to love a bully. But bullies aren't happy people. Somewhere inside, they think this will help. This will work for them. And everyone who's felt excluded and joined the trucks going to Ottawa or protests all over the world believe that it'll help. But you have a different trajectory. You've created us to love, and many have lost their way. Help us to find our way more fully so that we can respond and find your way forward.
I invite you to offer a word of prayer. Even Jesus turned over tables. He turned over tables for justice. I want to be able to be more Christ-like in the way I live, but at this time it is so hard for me. So I pray that I can be more Christ-like in this world and follow his teaching, even though it seems so far away right now.
For the world and for peace and for life, I would wish that a much higher proportion of the world's populace cared about the other.
We offer our prayers, trusting the love which lives in us, through us, and beyond us, to move us, shape us, inspire us, as we strive to embody love in the world. Reaching out beyond our fears, beyond our wants and needs, beyond our doubts, beyond our self-centeredness. May we feel the power of love urging us to choose life so that we might be love in the world. We pray in the name and for the sake of the one who is our lover, beloved, and breath of love, now and always. Amen. So traditionally, our Ash Wednesday concludes with the imposition of ashes. And for generations of the followers of Jesus, we bore the mark of the cross drawn with ashes to signify our intention to follow Jesus into the wilderness and beyond that to the cross in hope of resurrection. Now, our world is filled with crosses, instruments of death, and crucifixion sites. So today I invite you to bear the sign of the cross to signify your intention to choose life, remembering that beyond death, indeed out of death, life is continuously reborn. We are the stuff of dead stars, stardust reborn to spring forth. Remember that you are stardust, and to stardust you shall return. So, if you have something with which to make the sign of the cross, I have these ashes here, which I have mixed with some glitter. I invite you to trace with whatever you have, and if you don't have anything, use your finger. Trace on your forehead the sign of the cross. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Remember that we are dust, and to dust we shall return. Choose life. Life is a gift. Love is the point. Choose life. Choose life by being love in the world. Remember, the peace of the love which is divinity surpasses all our understanding. Peace is with you. Share that peace with the world. Amen. Thank you for joining us for worship. This is a strange environment in which to lead worship, but thank you for being with us and creating a space online where we could remember who we are and whose we are. I really appreciate it. Next week we will gather again on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. You'll be receiving the link. And our focus of the chats for the next few weeks is some reflection upon what has been raised in the course of the Sunday service. And so we'll have some time to reflect on that and move a little deeper into that. So I hope to see you again next Tuesday. In the meantime, shalom, dear ones. Shalom.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.